I think we have to talk, too, about this latest Kamala media charm offensive. And, I mean, they tried to keep her under a rock, and now in the last few weeks, she's going out into all sorts of media in Democrat-friendly kind of venues. You know, The View, Howard Stern. And if you knew Howard Stern in the 90s, his change is pretty remarkable. The Late Show. These are hardly pinnacles of, hard-hitting journalism. Have a look at some of these sit-downs.
Do you think there are people who will not vote for a woman because she's a woman? You know, my best associations in radio and in business have been collaborating with women.
Yeah.
And I don't understand this philosophy, especially guys who have daughters and sisters and mothers.
I love the American people, and I believe in our country.
If anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Yet, despite all this, Adam, I don't think the needle's moving much for the Democrats.
I mean, it's been a really bad week, I think, for the vice president. I mean, this so-called media blitz, and as you point out, she's chosen some very strange outlet. I mean, the only so-called hard-hitting one she did was 60 Minutes, and that did not go well for her. And that was, probably, in fairness, not a program that was opposed to her. They just asked the sorts of questions that you would expect about immigration, about the economy, and she didn't answer them very well. So it's not gone well. And I think what's going to be very interesting over the next week is to see whether her team lets her do another round of such interviews. And if they don't, as I suspect they won't, then that obviously suggests that they think she did very badly and they don't trust her to go out there, which, of course, is also a very bad message. It's also worth making the point that, by doing so few interviews, they've just led to this extraordinary media scrutiny of every single one. I mean, Donald Trump is doing so many interviews. I mean, kind of love him or hate him, he's doing long form, really long podcasts with all sorts of people. He's constantly doing press conferences. Sure, he says some crazy things, but there's just the sheer volume of his statements means that they can't all be analysed by the media, whereas with her strategy, they are analysed. There's, 5 takeaways from this, 13 takeaways from that, and this has worked out very badly for her.
Well, and it's also giving the Trump campaign an awful lot of fodder. I mean, have a look here at J.D. Vance having a bit of fun mocking her with some of this stuff.
But she walks into The View, and you would think that would be an interview, and you know what they asked her? They gave her a softball, an easy question. Really propaganda. They said, can you name a single thing where you disagree with Joe Biden? You know what she says? I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. Now, in her defense, I'm not sure she could think of anything off the top of her head.
Yeah, so I mean, it seems to me like this is, as you say, backfiring, and now that's actually giving ammunition to the Trump-Vance campaign. How do you think Vance particularly is going with this? Because his media appearances seem to be very strong. I think he's kind of the unsung hero of this campaign.
Yeah, look, I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, his debate went very well, I think, with Tim Walz. I don't think that can be seriously denied. And he's been the bravest of all 4 of them, if you like. He does the most interviews and also the most aggressive interviews in terms of the interviewer on the other side. He does MSNBC, he does CNN. I mean, he's very brave and confident in his arguing, and he's very good at it. So I think there was a lot of criticism of Donald Trump for choosing Vance. But as you suggest, I think in the final few weeks of the campaign, he's actually coming out to be a real asset for the Republicans and, basically a polished version of Donald Trump.
Well, exactly right. And, of course, no Republican vice presidential candidate will survive, that onslaught that they will all get, no matter who he picks. Thank you so much for your time, Adam Creighton. Really appreciate your time with the U.S. Report.
Thanks, James.